Okay. Good afternoon, Gamecock family. It's absolutely amazing for me to be talking with you from Columbia, South Carolina, and I can tell you we have almost 300 people on this call or on this Zoom, ranging from as far afield as Italy and London, England, I think, all the way through to Austin, Texas. I saw a Duluth mentioned, but I do know there's a Duluth in Georgia, so I'm not sure if that's Duluth, Georgia, or Duluth in the Midwest. But we have an amazing group of people here to listen to our 4 amazing athletes and our 5th athlete who has taken on the task of supervising them. I'm not sure if it was by mistake that we had a baseballer to, be the panel moderator for 4 football players, but we'll see how that plays out as we go forward. I just want to, on your behalves, thank Tommy Suggs, Ryan Succop, Moe Brown, Parker White, and of course, Michael Roth, for their willingness to spend an hour talking with you about the business of sports and what they have learned in their time after they left the Moore School. It is amazing to have such 4 prominent sportsmen talk to us today. Can I just also tell you that the Moore School is reaching the end of a very interesting year, but there is some good news that goes with this. Our class for next year is about 30% higher than it was this year. And the demand in our graduate programs is as strong as it has ever been. I have never seen graduate program demand at the level that we have this year. To some degree, that's anti-cyclical. When the economy gets into trouble, people go to school. But the Moore School is really in good shape. The building is quiet. If you came back to the building, you would not see many students, as for this year, we've mostly been more remote than we have been in place. But everybody has come through it very, very well. I'm even delighted to tell you that our placement for our class of 2021 is currently running at 86%. And the salaries are over $59,000, which is also a record. And it does seem to me that the job market is going to be a little bit more generous than we were worrying about a few weeks ago or months ago. But fundamentally, the school is in good shape. I am delighted to be speaking to such a prominent group of alumni. Know that your school appreciates you being with us, just as it does appreciate our alumni that will be talking with you over the next hour or so. Best of luck and go Cox.
Thanks, Dean Bruce. My name is Bo Hart. I'm Associate Director of Alumni Engagement here at the Darla Moore School of Business. We're so excited that all of you are here. Just wanted to give you a few house cleaning items. I want to thank everybody for submitting their questions and registration. We got a ton of questions. And if we have time for additional questions, and if you're interested in asking additional questions, if you'll look down at the bottom and you take your mouse, there's a button at the bottom. It says Q&A. You'll be able to click that button and submit additional questions. And if we have time, we'll get to those. But we really appreciate all of you being here. Also, this event is being recorded and we will send it out after the event. So with that, I'm going to introduce Corey Michaels to ask some trivia questions and then we'll get started. Corey.
Hi, yes, thank you so much, Bo. Hi, everyone. My name is Corey Michaels and I'm Assistant Director of Alumni Engagement here at the Moore School. We are so excited you guys are all here today and participating. We have some pretty competitive individuals on our panelists today, so we thought what better way to get these things kicked off than have a couple little friendly competitions through trivia. So I'm going to ask 2 different questions to all of those attending today, and you guys will have the opportunity to win a prize. So how this will work, I will read aloud the first trivia question, and those that are attending, sorry panelists, do not answer, but you will answer in the chat box feature at the bottom. So we'll click the chat box feature and make sure you're sending the message to all panelists and attendees. And then whoever gets the answer correct first will win a prize. Okay, so everyone's fingers ready, minds ready, keyboards ready. Here is the first question for a $50 gift card to Barefoot Athletics. to purchase some exclusive U of SC swag and a Moore School Centennial book. So first question, here we go. Which former Gamecock quarterback and current Gamecock coach is known for a famous touchdown fade pass in the fourth quarter of a game against Mississippi State in 2000? All right, lots of answers. Let's see who the first one is. I think it's Cameron. Whoever this is, let's see. Cameron first with the answer is Eric Kimry. So awesome job, Cameron. We will definitely get that gift to you. I'm writing down the name. Awesome. And then we're gonna go into the second question right now. So you guys have another chance to win. One person will win a $75 gift card to Amazon and another Centennial Moore School book. So everyone, this one might be a little bit more tricky. Let's go. Everyone ready? Here is the question. Which former Gamecock football player leads the program in total points scored? Let's see who get answers. And oh, we already have it. Looks like Zach. Nevis guy got it with Elliott Fry. Well, we thought that was going to be tricky, but maybe not as tricky as we thought. But congratulations, and we will get that prize to you as well, Zach. So awesome. With that, we'll go into the main event. I am so excited to introduce our moderator for today, Michael Roth. Just a little bit about Michael. I'm sure you guys are all well aware of who he is, but he's originally from Greenville, South Carolina, and attended the University of South Carolina. He graduated from the Moore School in 2012 with a degree in international business and marketing. As a USC student, Michael was a 4-year Letterman athlete and 2-year team captain of the Gamecock baseball team. He was instrumental in the team's success of making it to the College World Series for 3 years in a row and winning 2 national championships in 2010 and 11. Upon graduating from USC, Michael played 7 seasons of baseball with a variety of different organizations, including the Los Angeles Angels, Cleveland Indians, Texas Rangers, San Francisco Giants, Tampa Bay Rays, and Chicago Cubs. We are so excited he's here. He did retire in 2018, and he is currently back in Greenville, South Carolina, working as a brokerage associate at NAI Earl Furman in Greenville. So again, thank you. I hope I did your introduction justice. Michael, we're so excited, and I'll let you take it on from here.
Corey, thank you very much. And thank you everyone for joining us today. I would like to say thank you to Corey, Bo, Mary Ruffin, Susan, and Dean Peter Bruce for all the behind the scenes work that was put in, and countless others, I'm sure. But we have a great list of people here today, a great list of panelists. And then for those attending, thank you who submitted questions during registration. We are going to run through a few of those because you guys are pretty wild and submitted a ton of questions. We will not be able to cover them all. And so in order to try to get to as many as we possibly can, one of the things that we're going to do is direct these questions to a specific panelist. So panelists, you guys will get a single question. But for the other, 3 of you guys that are not talking at the time, feel free to jump in. I know I'll probably have to mute Mo a couple times. So the good thing is we can do that in this setting. But we're gonna have a good time. So first, I would just like to introduce everybody. We've got Tommy Suggs, was a 71 grad in marketing. He's the president and CEO for the Carolinas region of Hub International. Very impressive career in insurance. Was a starting quarterback for the Gamecocks and was the MVP his senior year. He also serves as the Gamecock football commentator. I'm sure you guys will know his voice, and was awarded the Distinguished Alumni Award in 1999. So a virtual clap for Tommy. Then we've got the best looking one attending today, Ryan Succop.
Hold on, what?
Yeah, Ryan,
Hit
definitely
the
the best looking guy.
Did I tell you guys how much I've enjoyed this panel so far? This is off to a great start here. This is great. Come on, buddy.
We got Ryan Succop, 2009, Finance and Management. place cooker for the Tampa Bay Bucks, Super Bowl champion, and he's played with several other teams. I'm blanking currently, but came to kick and punt for Gamecocks under Spurrier. 2017 broke the all-time NFL record for most consecutive field goals made under 50 yards, which very impressive. Mr. Irrelevant and awarded the Distinguished Young Alumni Award in 2018. So big congratulations to Ryan Succop. And then we've got Moe Brown, 2010 Finance and Marketing. He's the lead consultant at Process First Consulting. Former team football captain under Coach Spurrier. Also awarded the Distinguished Young Alumni Award in 2017. And I just have a feeling, we're going to see signs with Mo's name on in the future. So I'm sure we'll continue to see some of that.
We'll see.
And then we've got Parker White, 2020 grad, sport and entertainment management, and he is a current MBA candidate. He's from Charleston. He's working on his MBA, 4-year starter kicker for the Gamecocks, and currently still playing. So as you can see, we've got a wide group of people. We've got some older people here, and we've got some people that are still playing. We've got some people that have had incredible careers in business, and some of us that are just getting started. So give Tommy, Ryan, Moe, and Parker a big round of applause. All right, well, I think now is the time to really just get into it. And I think the best way to start would just be to say age before beauty. So Tommy, I think you're up.
Thank you, Michael.
Of course. You're also the wisest one of the bunch.
Yeah,
so,
right. Yeah, right.
That's right. So Tommy, what would you consider to be the most important lesson that you learned while playing your sport that has helped you in your career?
Oh, I don't know. Number one, there's probably not just one. There's a lot of them out there. But the one I like, I guess, would be the value of competition. I love competition. I love competing. I love knowing that you have to have a team. Of course, the sports I played in college was just one football. I did go out for baseball my senior year. Coach Richardson tried to get me to come out, and that fastball, Michael, was coming a little faster than it did in high school. But in high school, I played baseball, basketball, ran track, and everything. And I was always around a team. So having a good team in place was a great lesson I learned. I think also the value of leadership. Leadership comes in all forms, a lot of different ways, but you got to have a leader. And in my life and in my business life specifically, I've always felt like about 97% of the people in the world are followers. There's a very small percentage that are leaders. And the value of good quality leadership, and you know that, Michael, from your career here, is really invaluable. And I could just go on for longer than my allotted time, because there's so much you learn from playing football, a team sport, whatever it is. And I was fortunate to have some very good teammates, good coaching staffs, and learned a lot. And I was always trying to transition that into business, into my personal life. I was fortunate enough to be asked to come out and speak to the football team after the first spring practice this year. And I talked to them about values, the values you learn on a football program and in a team sport and in Carolina, that I was able to learn there and transition that into my 25 years of banking before I went into insurance, and also into my life, I think. And I think you got to have values. So I learned a lot, and I don't know if you can say just one thing, quite candidly.
Thanks, Tommy. I appreciate that. Was good stuff. Competition, I think, is a good one. I think obviously leadership very important. Some of the guys on here have obviously exhibited that, and you've exhibited that in your professional career. Moe, somewhat of a similar question. How were you able to translate your academic and your athletic experience and the skills that you acquired into what you're doing today or what you were doing, for the State Department and just in your general career?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that question, and thank you for having me here and all the people at the Moore School. This is a great event, and to be here with these esteemed guests is really an honor and privilege. But to answer the question, Tommy hit it on the head. Competition is big. I mean, you learn so much through competition, but I want to get a little bit more specific, and I would say compartmentalization, which is a 20-letter word. So if you want to get your points up, that's one for you.
Did you count that right quick? Or
I counted it before I got on here because I had to spell it out, and I was just like, wow, that is a long word, 20 letters. So anyway, but as athletes, we wake up in the morning, you go to workouts, you go to class, go back to workouts again, you go back to class, go to film, go to half practice, finish practice, go to study hall. It's 10 p.m. You probably should call your girlfriend and let her know that you care about her. And then you repeat this over and over and over again. And so each one of these items that I ticked off requires a high level of focus and attention, because the expectation, from an athlete standpoint, especially being an elite level is playing on the SEC, is for you to be good at all these things. And so being able to compartmentalize, has been essential to taking what I've learned from an athlete and as well as a student, being able to balance all those things and give maximum effort over and over again has really gave me a leg up in the corporate world, and just being open to always being coachable, being able to respond under pressure, understanding the importance of process. How am I going about this? Sorry, somebody's calling me. The importance of process and how you take yourself through each and every objective that you're trying to reach. And then the word that Tommy said at the end, knowing what your values are and how you can communicate that holistically. So, a lot of that goes right back to the 4 years that I spent at the University of South Carolina.
That's good stuff. Yeah, it's, I think about when you say compartmentalization, I think about the focus that's required, that all of us have put into being as good as we possibly could be at our sport, in the past. But I know now with work, focus is so important by getting just pulled away from, maybe it's your phone, maybe it's just another avenue or another opportunity that you could run after and maybe lose focus on. So appreciate that, Mo. Parker, you're the youngest one here. You're still involved, at South Carolina, still playing. What do you think the sport, which characteristic, that you've in your sports have been the most helpful? Teamwork, resiliency, preparation, humility, the list could go on, but what would you say would be the most helpful?
Yeah, certainly I'd have to say resiliency, just because everyone's going to have rough patches in their life they're going to have to get through. And without being able to be resilient, it's going to be tough to get where you want to go in life and in business or in sports or whatever the case may be. And I've learned that through having tough times and off-season workouts with my teammates, or really tough exams that I had to study basically like almost all night for, or struggles in games or whatever the case may be. It's always about, like, at least for me, and I'm sure Brian would understand this too, is like, it's about the next kick, like you can't change what's in the past. You got to be resilient and move on. But certainly those other qualities that you mentioned, teamwork, preparation, humility, those are certainly helpful. But I just think without being able to be resilient, I don't know, I would say that they depend on resiliency, like teamwork, for example. Like, you want to have good teamwork, but if your team isn't resilient, as soon as you maybe lose a game or hit a bump in a road or whatever the case may be, you're going to crumble, because, if you can't get over those, tough situations, it's going to be pretty much impossible to keep moving on. Same thing with preparation. You can be prepared, but, you can't be prepared for all the possible things that could, potentially go wrong in your life. So I think they just kind of depend on resiliency. So that's the one that really, I would say, sticks out to me the most.
Good stuff. Yeah, we're expecting our first child soon, and I've been kind of like just thinking on some of the most important things in like life, and there's just a lot of thought that goes into that. Ryan, you know that. Like, you just had a kid. Was it your third, right?
Yeah, it was our third.
So,
hey, congratulations, man. That's amazing. That really
yeah, thanks, man. We're excited. But I think exactly, what you said, resiliency is so important. Failure is like imminent, like we're all going to fail, and we should celebrate failure because it means we're going to grow. And I think sometimes we forget that. So, Ryan, I think this really leads into a good question for you. How has adversity on the field prepared you for challenges, and things off of the field for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, I would say a couple of things. When I first think of adversity, when I was younger, I used to always think, man, it stinks. Why is this happening? You kind of always hit yourself with those questions. And as I've gotten older, one of the things that I've realized is that every time that I've gone through some adversity in my life, usually and the Lord has used that to grow me. And when we go through adversity, we can do one of two things. We can either let it get us down and defeat us, or we can learn from it and grow from it and really mature as a person. And so I think back to several times. I remember my senior year of college. I went through a really difficult injury, played with the injury, had a bad senior year at South Carolina. And I specifically remember thinking, why now? Like I felt like I was going to have a great chance to play in the NFL. All of a sudden I'm hurt. I'm having a bad year. And you look back on it, and it turned out to be a blessing. It ended up putting me in Kansas City, where I played for 5 years and had a great start to my career. I think about all the things that happened, and you look back on it and there's purpose behind that. There's purpose behind that adversity. And likewise, even this past year, I was in my 11th year here with the Titans, and in Nashville, had 6 great years here. And all of a sudden in that 6th year with the Titans, hit some adversity, went through a really tough injury, didn't play well, didn't perform well. And in my business, the NFL, not for long, we all know what happens when you're hurt or you don't play well for a half season, and they get you out of town. And that's exactly what happened. And I specifically remember going through that, and I'd played 11 years. Things were pretty comfortable. I was hanging with the kids. I was playing golf. And then the opportunity happened opened up in Tampa. And I look at the same thing that happened in college. I look what that adversity led me to, and it did a lot of things. It showed me how much I appreciate the game. It grew me. It showed me, that offseason was able to probably work harder than I've ever worked. And then ended up in Tampa, and ended up probably having the best season of my career. And obviously, you guys know the rest. We won the Super Bowl. And I think back to, if I hadn't gone through that adversity, none of it would have happened. And so often in life, whether it's in business, whether it's in family life, whether it's in sports, you just see so many people that when they go through adversity, they allow it to defeat them and get the better of them. And when we push through those things and when we fight through those things, a lot of times there's a tremendous blessing on the other side of it. And so I'm grateful for the times I've gone through it, even though it hasn't been fun. It's not fun going out in front of 80,000 fans and missing a kick or whatever it may be. It's never fun. But when you get through that and you learn not to worry about, what people say, what people think, and you just try to go out there and do your best, there's a reward to that, and there's fulfillment to that. And so I'm really grateful for the times I've experienced adversity on the field and off the field as well. It grows you off the field.
Man, we need to clip that up and put that on a film. That was good stuff.
Oh, man,
that was awesome, man. That was great stuff. I appreciate how open you were there, Ryan.
Hey, Michael.
Yeah.
Just to follow up briefly on what Ryan said, I've always felt like life and business and whatever was like basketball, since we don't have any basketball players on here. What I mean by that is you really got to take a shot to win. You can't win 0-0. You got to take a shot. So don't be afraid to take the shot. But more importantly, kind of what Ryan alluded to, it's really about rebounding. How do you handle the bad shot? Because all of us do it. That's what we've been saying here. Everything doesn't go perfectly. You lose, you miss a field goal, whatever the deal is. You walk a batter, but or you drop a pass. If you Moe Brown, of course, he never dropped one.
Man,
but, hey, I never called you dropping one. But, it's about rebounding. It's really about rebounding, and that's what Ryan was saying, really.
And if I can add, because I think this is such an important point, and I think as athletes, we do get exposed to this constantly. I say, we are forced to be self-aware in correcting, whether that's from, your coaches, whether that's from your fans, whether that's the analysts, whether that's yourself. Like, you have to be self-aware in order to correct the mistake so you can become better, because it's highly competitive. But what really need to focus on is, everything do happen, and we hear that old cliche, everything happened for a reason, everything happened for a reason. But the reason is determined by the actions that you make after. That's what Ryan was alluding to. It made him look at his career and how much he loves it, and how he want to dedicate himself, and he chose to take the adversity and be motivation to continue to be better. And I think every one of us can share our stories like that. So why it may happen for a reason, the reason is usually determined by the actions and the mindset that you take after you have that bad shot. So it's a great point, and good job by both of you two bringing it up.
It's great stuff. Yeah. Good stuff. To change tunes here a little bit. Just, I think we hammered adversity and failure and competition. I think it's, we always have some people that we meet, whether we're on our teams or they're a leader, on our team. And so, Tommy, who was your greatest athletic mentor and business mentor? And what were some of those greatest lessons that maybe you learned from them? And it could have been involved in sports and that you applied to your life today.
I think athletic was probably my head basketball coach in high school, who also was my offensive coach on the football team, Jim Newsom. Learned a lot from him. He was tough. He was fair. He was caring. But I liked him. And he and I communicate, still do. He's a great guy. And I think also Paul Dietzel, who was my head football coach here. He'd won the national championship at LSU. He recruited me here, and learned a lot from him. A lot as on and off the field from him. And a lot of people don't know the reason I got into broadcasting football games was not because I majored in broadcast journalism or anything like that, as we know from this broadcast. But I was active in the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and so was he. And we were speaking sometimes together and on the same podium. And ABC came out with Monday Night Football, and he wanted to form a football player. So he chose me because of my involvement in the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. So he knew I could handle myself. So that's how I got into it 48 years ago. In business, it's probably two, I think. One would be John Warren. John Warren was CEO of SCANA for a long time here in Columbia. He taught me a lot about business acumen. He taught me about the value of writing personal handwritten notes, as opposed to calling people on the phone or sending them typed notes or text messages or whatever else, which I still do to this day, and I love doing that. And the other one was John Lumpkin. John Lumpkin was chairman of the board of the bank that I first went with out of college, and he taught me a lot of things socially. He taught me how to dress. He taught me how to act. Not that I didn't know, but I learned a lot from him of what was proper in the business world. And so the other stuff you learn, the business stuff you learn, but it's so much of the social stuff and the I guess the intangibles out there that those two help me a lot with. How to connect with people, communicate, follow up, do those things that sometimes business schools quite candidly don't teach you. And they also taught me the value of culture, because the numbers always work out one way or the other, good or bad, as you know, Michael. You and I were meeting a few weeks ago, but it's a culture that gets you through. And both of those guys taught me the value of culture.
That's good stuff. Thanks, Tommy. I appreciate that. It's I think we all probably have some very important people in our lives, some mentors, and maybe those people know it or maybe they don't. And but it definitely takes people pouring into you and also remembering that because you want to pass that along and pour into someone else. I know one of the things that was, I think, something that the Moore School tries to do is just to provide resources for people, to grow, and whether that's learning, whether that's finding a mentor. But Parker, what are some of those South Carolina resources that you would recommend someone look at if they were starting their education at South Carolina? Something maybe somebody didn't finish, but they want to, or maybe someone's just looking at the business school or just South Carolina as a whole.
Right. Yeah. So Tommy just hit on a little bit with how important a mentor can be. So that would be one of my first suggestions, would just be to start a mentorship program through the university, or get involved with that, I guess I should say, because it's so important to have, be able to lean on someone who has gone down the path that you want to go on. So having that is like super important. And another thing would be academic counselors and tutors that we have at South Carolina. Like for me, Claudia Whitehead works in the business school. She's been super helpful with helping me schedule my classes, like my MBA so far, around football practice and workouts and stuff. So she's been really helpful. I've also had a separate football advisor, Katie Christensen, and she has a lot on her plate with a lot of our student athletes and stuff, and she's been super helpful, also helping me pick classes and get the right curriculum to where I want to be down the road and what kind of job I want to have. So she's also been a big blessing in my life. Yeah, we've also, and like I also said, tutors. I've had a lot of tutors at Carolina that have helped me through really tough classes when sometimes maybe the professor wasn't getting to the wasn't getting through to my head, or I wasn't understanding the material. So that has been super helpful to me as well. But yeah, it's been really good to go straight from undergrad to doing my MBA, because I was still sort of in like the class mode. I guess, like, I didn't mind, going to class, taking exams and stuff like that. Now I would imagine, I can't speak from experience, but if I was out in the workforce, it might be tough to come back and continue. So I would strongly recommend like just pushing through it, and trying to finish as soon as you can before you get out there. Because once you get money in your pockets, it's tough to shell out to come back to school. But I know down the road it's going to be really worth it, and a great investment for me. So yeah.
Yeah, I was I was drafted as a junior to go play professionally, and one of the things that actually made me want to come back my senior year, one was they weren't paying me enough money. Two, but really more importantly was there was Brian Busher was our coach. He was like our student coach at the time, and he had played I think it was parts of 5 years in the big league. So made a decent amount of money, and I remember we were talking one day, and he's like, "Man, this is the hardest year of my life." And he's like, "I'm a 30-year-old back in school with 20-year-olds, and I think his wife was pregnant with their first child on the way." And he's like, "I just kept seeing my bank account go down." And he's trying to get his degree, and that was one thing that was impactful to me, and why I wanted to finish before I went off to try to pursue baseball. And I'm sure it's funny. This morning I got a text from another buddy that I played with, who's actually finishing his degree now after playing professionally for several years. And so it's tough. It's got to be hard. But I think like we've talked about, the resiliency of pushing through it. So it's worth having your degree, especially from the University of South Carolina. Mo, so being a college athlete it's pretty rare. How would you say Darla Moore prepared you to step off the playing field?
That's a great question. And then being on the field absolutely is rare, but going to the business school, it's not quite as rare. And what was great about the Moore School is, the professors had real world experience, and they taught in that way. They took the academic, the words in the book, and applied it to real world situations so that you can get a feel for what it would be like when you actually got out into the real world. So, dollar more in just how to conduct business, how to learn business, how to communicate business. I was a finance and marketing major, and my process behind that, obviously I wanted to be in the NFL and make a bunch of money. And so one, knowing how to manage my funds, and then two, the marketing side, how to market myself, understanding the platform that you have, and the people that is interested in what you have to say and what to give, and how can you maximize that. So all those skills going through the Dollar Moore School of Business really prepared me when football did not go well. I had the opportunity to go and work for the South Carolina Department of Commerce as a project manager. And so working on projects as small as 500,000, and over my 6-year period, I worked on projects as big as $600 million, and all the complicated pieces that comes along with that. I felt confident as a 22-year-old being able to do such a tough job to pull those things together through the lessons I learned from the Dollar Moore School of Business.
Yeah, I'm sure we all had a bunch of things that we learned, whether it was at the Moore School or any other respective school, and how it's taught us. And I'm sure there's a lot of things that we've also learned outside of that too. Ryan, you're still playing professionally. How would you say your business degree has helped you from the financial side of professional sports?
Yeah, great question. I would say that the answer to that question is probably twofold. Starting with, you learn what not to do, and then you learn what to do. I think we've all heard stories of guys that have come into the NFL. You're a young kid, you're 22, 23, 24 years old. You've never really had any money. If you're a guy like me, the only money that you're used to managing is whatever your weekly per diem is on your Carolina card. So you can go up to the Russell House and, eat your pandinis. So you don't really have experience with it. And, we see so many guys that come into the league and they start making some serious money at a young age. They don't know how to manage it. They don't know how to handle it. And so, unfortunately, you see guys that, get in trouble. They think they're going to play forever. We know the average NFL career is about 2.8 years. So not even 3 years. And so you see guys that are living, they want to live like the 10-year vet is living, and, drive the car that the 10-year vet's driving, or live in the house that the 10-year vet is living in. And so you see that a lot, and it's sad. It's sad. The other thing you see is that guys want to help out family members, and they want to invest in their friend's business idea and that type of stuff. And oftentimes we know all too well that stuff doesn't work out. And so for me, I was really fortunate to sort of have that background, understanding those things. Learned a lot of that in school, learned a lot of that through my parents. And you also learn, there's also the positive side of that is, when you come into some money at a young age, if you understand compounding interest, things like compounding interest, things like the time value of money, things like opportunity cost. And this is something I talk with young guys coming into the league all the time. And I'm like, look, if you'll take, I know you want to buy whatever it is, but it's not just the money that you're spending on that car. It's the opportunity cost of, hey, if you were to invest that money, let it grow, you're not spending $100,000 on a car. Really, you're spending 10x that, because this is what that money would be worth in 10 years, in 20 years. And so understanding principles like that, I'm very grateful that I was able to learn those and have those implemented. And for me, for my wife and I, we've been able to just go with the approach that we're going to try to live way below our means, not get caught up in all the other stuff. And I'm thankful that was instilled in me at a young age. It was instilled in me through college. And that's something I try to help the young guys with. And there's a lot of guys that do it the right way, which is cool to see. And then unfortunately, there's a lot of guys that don't quite have that concept yet nailed down. So I was grateful I learned that in school. It's something that has stuck with me. And hopefully I've been able to let that rub off on some other guys as well. And we certainly have those conversations pretty often in the locker room. And it's kind of neat because there's a lot of guys that are learning and want to do it well. And it's kind of cool when you can give some of that knowledge and hopefully help somebody out down the road long term.
Yeah, locker room's always interesting, right? There's always business ideas floating around, and things that you should think about. I remember I had a buddy who in 2013 was telling me about Bitcoin, and now he looks like he's pretty smart. So.
We'll see. But yeah, it would have been a good investment in 13, wouldn't it?
That's right. That's right.
You may not be on this call moderating right now, Mike. Go ahead, you.
Yeah, right.
Oh man. So yeah, that's really good stuff. I think our degrees have definitely helped us make smart decisions. And Parker, this is a question for you. As you're finishing or going through your MBA right now and still playing, what are some things that you think, what do you think will be the biggest leverage from the Moore School to maybe the next step in your career, whether that's on a professional football field or wearing a snazzy suit like you got on today?
Yeah, so Ryan just sort of hit on it. Understanding the time value of money, compound interest, and all that stuff is going to be super helpful because I'm concentrating in finance. So that's sort of the area that I'd like to go into. My first priority after graduating and finishing this fall of football is going to be to keep pursuing football. But if that doesn't work out, I want to go into private wealth management, and I think the Moore School has really prepared me for that, specifically with my MBA, because I did do business administration in undergrad as well, but without having my MBA from here, I would not be nearly as well equipped as I am now with especially some of the classes I've taken to go down that career path. So hopefully football works out and that I can be able to go down that route for a little bit before kind of transitioning to finance. So see how that goes. But I definitely think the Moore School and all the great professors I've had have really helped me, be ready for that path.
Good deal. Let's see. Got a couple questions here. I think this is a good one. Tommy, as athletes, we've all learned a great deal. What advice would you have for parents with young children who want to play sports?
I don't know. I started when I was very young. My father was a great player and a great dad. My mother was too. And I was playing at a really young age. But and I would encourage them to do that, to let their children play, but be very careful. What worries me about young sports, a couple of things. One is sometimes you run into a coach that wasn't as good as you guys were in your high school and college careers and professional careers, and they end up kind of taking it out on the young kids. And I don't like to see that. They put too much pressure on them, and I think that's bad. They don't teach them the right fundamentals. Therefore, they can get injured, or you can turn them off of the sport totally. They can just not want to play anymore. I think also sometimes if you start them too early, the thrill of putting on the uniform and having the crowd yell your name, you get it through your system and you don't want to play later when you can be better. So I think it's a balancing act. It depends on the child. It depends on the family. Depends on the sport. But I do think overall, if you can let them play and you're comfortable with it, do it, because you just learn so much about the value of team, the value of competition, as I said earlier, and what all these other guys say. But I think you have to be a little careful. Yeah.
Yeah, the business of sports, I think, has probably changed immensely since a lot of us have come through, and especially at the amateur age, and how it's become very specialized.
And it's also, you go in my break room and you hear 5 mothers in there talking about being on the road all weekend with some of these traveling teams and all, and they're tired and the kids are tired too, in some respects. So I think you got to let your kids be kids too a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I can think back to when I was very serious about playing. I was probably much younger age than a lot of people, but I loved the work. And so I would say Mo, this may be a question for you and for everybody in here, obviously, but can you think back to maybe the time where you recognized, hey, this is, or can you bring us back to the time that you recognized that you wanted to be a football player, and what did that look like for you?
Yeah, you're talking about special mentors, and the question you asked Tommy about who was the most influential sports and corporate side or business side mentors. Well, mine came from running summer track. Coach Quabini Brown and Rod Cowan. They were younger guys, mid-20s, but was really dedicated to the youth and the area in Anderson County, bringing us opportunities through track and field. And one of the things that they had was the 3 Ds, determination, discipline, and dedication. If you implement those 3 things in your life, in the track, is going to translate to everything that you do. And so learning, traveling around the country, competing against my peers, little small town country boy from Belton, my world expanded, and I was able to see and build confidence in myself that I was capable to play on a pretty elite level. And so in that moment, going through those, it was 10th grade, I remember, I was like, I got to buckle down to school and get my grades up, because I'm gonna have a shot to play on the next level. And I did exactly that. And from there, I just got really, really focused. I was the guy that was always after practice, that ran routes. I would just go through the route tree just to get a familiarity with myself and how I was running, and then apply that in everything else. How could we be leaders? How can we continue to advance? And so, the West Side School that I played for, we were 3-8 my sophomore year, 6-6 my junior year, and then we went 11-2. Well, that 11-2 year, we changed the leadership culture of, we're going to take player accountability to discipline, whether that was in the classroom, whether that was in the weight room, or whether it was on the field. And it changed the culture, as Tommy has been saying. And we was able to grow from there. And so those moments in high school really prepared me to become the student athlete that I was in college. And, but for Coach Brown and Coach Cowan, I don't know if that happens, but I'm so grateful that it did.
That's that's good stuff. I think this is a really important question. Shout out to Bo Hart for texting this to me. How have you been able to replicate the thrill? And this is really for everybody. I want to throw this out to everybody. And some of, Parker, you can talk about this in the classroom as a student. Ryan, you'll talk some about this maybe on the golf course. How have you been able to replicate the thrill of competition, and victory from sports into the corporate world, or into, things that you do off of the field? Who I want, let's get Tommy to go first on that one.
Okay, it's very easy. You compete. You want to win. It's about winning and losing. That's basically what it is. And it doesn't matter if you're throwing a pass or making a shot or throwing a baseball or hitting a home run. It's the same thing about winning an account or satisfying your clients out there. That's what it's about. So if you understand the value of competition and what you got to have and other values to help you win and the culture you got to have, then it's easily transition. You can transition it very easily, in my opinion. It's all about keeping score. It's all about here's your goal, here's where you are year to date, and this is where you need to be. And so I don't think it's too complicated, quite honestly. It's a pretty easy transition.
If I jump in, it's the process, right? I think we often, everyone wants to be the end result of a process, without going through it. And each one of us can talk about every moment, every second, every time we doubted ourselves, wanted to quit, tears. Those things happen in business as well. When you're going after a pursuit, put a lot of work into it, did all that you can to win, and you lose. And then you got to reassess and say, well, how can I prevent this happen again. So it's the process, that dedication to the process and always wanting to be better. Again, self-aware and correcting. That's how it has translated. Now, I will say this, there's nothing like playing football and competing against that person across you. It's hard to duplicate that specifically, but if you are really committed to, again, the process, adding value, be innovative, constantly seeing how you can do something better. That's how you scratch that itch, and you'll be successful if you continue to do so.
Parker, you still got some outlets for competition, but what about off the field?
Yeah, certainly. Like definitely for me, in a class setting, like competition, is kind of integrated in the way that like it's all connected. Like maybe I'm competing against like my other classmates on, how well we can do on an exam, because in a work setting, like, who are they going to take with a guy with like say you have a similar resume, like the guy that, got all A's in his classes, graduated with his master's with a 4.0, or maybe the guy that barely scraped by with like a 2.9, 3.0, like whatever, just kind of on like the lower end. Like that's sort of a way that, that at least I'm competing now, is just doing well in classes. And that kind of, or I've learned that at least like from football, because, that's its simplest, form is compete. Like when we go and play Eastern Illinois in September, that's first thing we think of as competition, but it also has helped me and translates to off the field and in a classroom setting as well.
Ryan, I know you love competition, and I know you translate that on the golf course. What are some other ways that you think competition in sports has really just helped you in general?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think every one of us on here, we probably enjoy the thrill of competing. And you're right. If I'm going out and I love to play golf, and I'll play my buddy for $1. And I promise you, it's not about winning that $1. It's the thrill of competing. And it's about putting the work in. One of the lessons I've learned in my professional career, all the way up, is that really anything worthwhile, that is worthwhile, that is rewarding, it's because you put a lot of work into it, and it's the journey, it's the sacrifice, it's what you've poured into it. And so that's something that I enjoy. I enjoy that process. I love competing, and it goes into other areas of my life. It's as a father, as a husband, as a teammate. It's not just what we do on the field. We want to do the best that we can with the abilities that the Lord gave us to raise our kids the right way, to be the best husband that we can, to pour into our teammates, whatever it may be. You want to work at it. You want to work at it, and you want to give it your all. And a lot of times, the thing I've learned is that you get almost more reward out of the process of doing those things than out of actually winning the game or whatever the final result may be. It's almost that the journey becomes the reward in my eyes.
Can I add something to that too? And I think it's important.
Please do.
It's the respect side. That's one thing none of us really touched on, that we learn as athletes, to respect your opponent, because there's someone that's always competing against you as well, that is working just as hard. And so to what Ryan said, the winning portion of it, that take care of itself. But if you're really dedicated to that process, you're going to win regardless, because you're going to grow. And sometimes you got to say, you just got the best of me today. Let's play again tomorrow. We'll see what happens on the next day. So, having respect for your opponent too is a big thing that I don't learn in business, and being able to adapt and continue to grow. So that respect portion of it is just as important as the competition portion of it as well.
Yeah, good stuff. We're in a results-driven society, and that's, I think, a good thing. That's how we advance as a society, and that's how we win games, right? But the process is so important. I always think about how, any game that we win, like we could always probably think back to a few games that we win, but I definitely remember more of the work that was put in, the interactions with teammates, of putting the work in to get to that result. And then we've got one last question, and I think this is just a really important question. We've talked about how our sports have impacted us, and some of us have moved on from sports, and some of us are still really very involved in it. But I think we've probably all gone through a point of recognizing that that time as an athlete at some point will end or has ended. And I think there's a mental, maybe there's just self-reflection in that. And how did that transition, or how did that, if you're yet to go through that, or maybe there's adversity that you faced where the potential was there, what did that look like for you to change? And so, Mo, let's start with you on that.
Man, that is really a heavy question, honestly. If you really get into the weeds of it and really start dissecting all the emotions that come along with, being in the SEC, being a starter, being a captain, putting up numbers, and then being forced with a situation where you don't make it to the ultimate goal of being an NFL player, and you literally at the cusp, the doorstep of changing not only your lives, but your family life, and in certain aspects, your community lives, and not being able to obtain it. That wasn't easy at all. But going back to just having wisdom and preparing yourself, even for football, being a finance and marketing major, I knew that with one play, my career could be over regardless how good I was. And so having that degree to fall back on did open up that opportunity at Department of Commerce, but I turned it down 3 times before finally accepting an internship position that allowed me to work half the day and then work out the other half the day. And because of that, and I'm thankful for Joe Taylor for pushing me to do that, because it gave me an opportunity to get in the business world and start forcing myself, how can I transition? And I remember sitting at my desk with a tie on, and that's why I hate wear ties now. I'm like, what am I doing sitting behind this desk instead of not having my shorts on and a t-shirt running around? And it took some time to get past it. But again, when I start figuring out how I can translate those skills I've learned at a Dollar School and then on the field, it became fun. It's like, okay, now I'm proud of my state. I want to sell my state. I want to recruit jobs to South Carolina. I want to be able to help families who didn't have good paying jobs before and grow. And so that's what really helped the transition and be in the position I am today.
That's I appreciate you sharing that, and I wish we had some more time. If there's anybody else that wants to share, feel free to jump up. You don't have to, but we are right near the end and ready to turn it over. But I think we'll turn it over to Mary Ruffin. Thank you for again, everyone that joined us. Thank you for joining us. We really enjoyed being here, going through some of these questions, and hope you enjoyed just the honesty and the openness that all the guys came here with today. Mary Ruffin.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael, Tommy, Mo, Ryan, and Parker for your outstanding representation of the University of South Carolina Darla School of Business. We appreciate everybody's time today, everybody who came, our alumni and friends, and we'll be mailing everybody a rally towel. It's a very special rally towel for y'all to use to cheer on the Gamecocks going forward. So be looking out for that in the mail. Please, everybody, join us for Shuck and Shag. That'll be at homecoming this year. It's our big oyster roast that we have every year in band party right here at the Moore School courtyard underneath the palmettos and the beautiful moon. So y'all please put that on your calendar for October the 15th. And I just want to thank everybody again and say go Gamecocks, and was hoping that all the panelists could join me in Spurs Up so we can get a quick picture right here for social. Thank you all again. It's been such an honor to hear all be left us with so many great lessons. Thank you again. Go Gamecocks.
Go Gamecocks.
Cox.